Hello and welcome to the Cultivate the Soul channel. Thank you for stopping by. If you've ever felt exhausted from trying to please everyone, if you've ever felt trapped under the weight of others' opinions, then today's video might just change the way you see yourself, forever. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered, why do I always feel like I'm not good enough? You try to study harder, work longer, be kinder, be better. And yet, that nagging feeling lingers, like no matter what you do, it's never quite enough. You smile, even when your heart feels heavy. You say, yes, when deep down you want to scream, no. And over time, you begin to lose touch with who you really are. Are you living for yourself, or just trying to meet everyone's expectations? You're not alone. This is the silent struggle of so many people living in a world obsessed with approval, success, and being liked. But what if I told you? You don't have to please everyone. You don't need universal approval to be happy. And you absolutely have the right to be disliked, so you can finally live as your true self. The book The Courage to be Disliked, written by Ichiro Kishimi, a Japanese philosopher, and Fumitake Koga, a writer focused on psychology, is a bold, liberating answer to those questions. It draws from the groundbreaking ideas of Alfred Adler, one of the three great thinkers of modern psychology, alongside Freud and Jung, but perhaps the most revolutionary of them all. What makes this book unique is its format. It's not a dry psychological manual. It's a provocative dialogue between a young man, full of anger and confusion, and a calm philosopher. Each page feels like a debate between who we are, and who we're afraid to become. And eventually, one message stands out. True freedom isn't found in being liked by everyone. It's found in accepting that some people will dislike you, and being at peace with that. In this journey, we'll walk through 7 key principles drawn from the book, starting from how all personal problems stem from relationships, to how you can claim your worth, and most of all, how to live courageously and truthfully. No high-minded theory. No need to be someone great. Just a gentle but powerful reminder. You are allowed to live lightly, freely, and joyfully, starting right now. So, are you ready to begin that journey? If so, let's dive into the next part, the core philosophy of Alfred Adler, the foundation of the courage to be disliked. When people talk about modern psychology, they usually think of Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. Freud believed that childhood experiences, especially emotional wounds buried deep in the unconscious, are the root cause of our behaviors and emotions in the present. For example, if you're afraid of public speaking, Freud might say it's because you were humiliated in school as a child. That trauma, stored in your unconscious, now silently controls your adult life without you even realizing it. Freud's theory makes sense. It explains nearly everything through a neat, logical lens, so logical, in fact, that it can leave us feeling powerless. Because if the past controls the present, then what choice do we really have? And then, someone came along with an entirely different idea. Alfred Adler, once a colleague of Freud, broke away from psychoanalysis and introduced a revolutionary, controversial, yet profoundly hopeful idea. We are not determined by our past. We are driven by our goals in the present. Let that sentence sink in for a moment. Adler didn't deny that we have painful memories. But he believed that we don't act because of our past, we act with a purpose in the present. For instance, you might say you struggle to open up to others because you've been betrayed before. But Adler would ask, Are you using the past as an excuse to avoid emotional vulnerability? Are you choosing isolation now to avoid future pain? Another example, someone who is always late. They may claim it's just a habit they've had since childhood. But in Adler's view, being late serves a purpose, perhaps to draw attention, exert control, or avoid having to wait for others. So instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" Adler urges us to ask, "What am I trying to achieve with this behavior?" This is where Adler draws a clear line between Freud's past determinism and his own purpose-driven psychology. At first glance, this idea seems liberating. But in truth, it comes with a heavy sense of responsibility. If you believe you are a victim of your past, it's easy to say, "I can't change." But if you believe that your current behavior is your choice, then you can no longer blame your parents, society, or your ex. You have to turn inward and ask, am I really living the life I want? Am I using the past as a shield to protect my comfort zone? In other words, you don't need someone to heal you. You need to change the purpose you're living for, and your behavior will follow. One of Adler's most powerful and provocative claims is, people can change, not gradually, but instantly, if they truly make up their minds. Change doesn't have to be a long, painful process. It can begin the moment you decide to live differently. Let's return to our earlier example. Someone fears public speaking. But what if they chose a different goal? I speak to share something meaningful, not to be praised. Suddenly, the fear of being judged loses its grip, because the focus shifts away from the ego and toward contribution. This kind of thinking upset many in the psychological community, because it challenges everyone who lives in the mindset of, "I can't." But at the same time, it opens the door to true freedom for anyone who dares to say, "I want to." Adler doesn't care how many times you've failed, how deeply you've been hurt, or who rejected you. The only thing that matters is, how will you choose to live from this moment on? His philosophy is not for those who want to play the victim. It's for those who are ready to take responsibility. It's for those who want to step out of the cycle of fear and start choosing their own path, courageously. That's why The Courage to Be Disliked is not just a book, it's a revolution in how we think about life, pain, and freedom. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore one of Adler's most thought-provoking and controversial ideas. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. Are relationships truly the root of all emotional pain? Can we be happy without others? And how do we live in harmony with people, without losing ourselves? At this point, you might be thinking, well, I don't really have issues with anyone. I just don't like myself. Or, I'm not good enough. I'm lazy. I always feel useless. These are personal problems, they have nothing to do with other people. But according to Alfred Adler, that's only the surface. He boldly claimed, all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. That sounds extreme, doesn't it? But let's slowly unravel what he meant. You hate yourself, because you're comparing yourself to others. Have you ever felt like you're not good enough? Not smart enough? Not successful enough? Not attractive enough? The issue isn't that you're lacking something, it's that you're comparing yourself to someone else. You don't feel unattractive until you see someone you think is more beautiful. You don't feel poor until you compare yourself to someone wealthier. You don't feel like a failure until you hear someone else brag about their success. So, self-hatred is not a solo problem. It stems from measuring your worth through the lens of others rather than your own values. Adler called this social comparison suffering. His radical solution: abandon competition. Live your own life, at your own pace, on the path you choose for yourself. You fear failure, because you fear judgment. Many people say they fear failure. But if we dig deeper, what they're really afraid of is: what will people think of me if I fail? Will they laugh at me? Will they look down on me? The fear doesn't come from failure itself, it comes from how others will perceive that failure. Adler called this the life for the eyes of others. And he believed it was the true root of our suffering. You stop fearing failure the moment you realize: I don't exist to please anyone. I live by my own values and goals. You feel lonely, because you're disconnected. It's a strange paradox. In a world flooded with social media, messaging apps, and video calls, people are feeling more isolated than ever. According to Adler, we're born with an innate need to connect, but not through likes or seen notifications. He called this the need for community feeling, the sense that we are a meaningful part of something bigger than ourselves. When you feel like you contribute nothing to the world, you start to question your very existence. When you feel disconnected, unheard, unnecessary, you fall into a deep emptiness. It's not just loneliness. It's a crisis of purpose. Adler's answer isn't that everyone must love you. He simply said: live to contribute, not to be recognized. When you stop demanding that others understand or save you, and start asking yourself, what can I give to others? Then and only then, you stop being alone. It's not, I'm better than you, it's, we are equal. One of Adler's core teachings is the idea of horizontal relationships, that is, genuine equality in human interactions. He didn't view the world through a hierarchy. A father isn't above his child. A teacher isn't above their student. A CEO isn't above an employee. We are all people, trying to live meaningful lives. This equality helps dissolve inferiority complexes. It removes the need to prove yourself. It also lays the foundation for truly healthy relationships, based on no control, no submission, only mutual respect and growth. So, what is happiness? Adler believed happiness doesn't come from wealth, being loved, or personal achievements. Happiness comes from something far more fundamental. I feel useful to someone. A mother caring for her child. A mechanic fixing a bike. A writer telling a story. A doctor saving lives. A friend who listens without judgment. Anyone can be happy, if they live with the spirit of contribution. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need others to thank or applaud you to feel valuable. Because you're not doing it for recognition, you're doing it because. That's the kind of person you choose to be. In the next part, we'll dive into one of the most painful dilemmas that haunts millions every night. I want to be accepted, but I also want to be myself. Can I have both? We all say we want freedom. Freedom to live how we want. Freedom to speak our truth. Freedom to love who we love, to pursue what we believe in. But very few people actually dare to live freely. Because freedom isn't just a gift, it comes with a cost. And most of us are not willing to pay that cost. The first price of freedom, you must accept being disliked. One of the deepest fears in human nature is the fear of rejection. Since ancient times, we survived by belonging to a tribe. Being cast out often meant death. So we evolved with a strong instinct to be liked, to be accepted, to be approved. Today, being disliked won't kill you. But the fear of being judged, misunderstood, or abandoned still haunts us every day. You want to wear what you like, but you're afraid of being laughed at. You want to decline an invitation, but you're afraid of disappointing someone. You want to speak your truth, but you stay silent, afraid of conflict. We trade away our freedom just to maintain a fragile sense of peace, a kind of emotional slavery disguised as politeness. But according to Alfred Adler, if you truly want to be free, you must have the courage to live a life not everyone approves of. Being disliked by someone doesn't mean you're living wrongly. Sometimes, it's proof that you're finally living truthfully. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want, it's taking responsibility for your choices. Many people confuse freedom with doing whatever I feel like. But that's not freedom, that's just impulse. True freedom is when you are aware of your choices, and willingly accept the consequences of those choices. You can choose to go left or right. You can choose to love or to leave. You can choose to speak up or to stay quiet. No one can stop you. But are you willing to own the result of that choice? Freedom always comes with responsibility. You can no longer blame your parents, your past, or society. You must look yourself in the mirror and say, "My life is my own." Both the victories and the failures. Freedom is when you no longer live to please others. One of the most powerful quotes in The Courage to Be Disliked is, "I am not living to satisfy your expectations. And you are not living to satisfy mine." It might sound selfish, but in truth, it's the highest form of respect and freedom. We often suffer because others don't understand us. Or worse, we abandon our authentic selves just to be more acceptable in their eyes. But when you live like that, you are betraying your soul. And even if people love you, they're not loving you. They're loving the mask you wear. Freedom means removing that mask. To be real. To accept that not everyone will like you, and to know that you don't need them to. Freedom is not about escaping, it's about facing. Some people think freedom means quitting their job, leaving their family, running away from everything. But according to Adler, freedom is not about where you are or what you do, it's about how you face your life. You can be in the middle of a busy city, working a regular job, and still be completely free. If you don't let opinions, fears, or expectations control you. True freedom is not about abandoning life. It's about stepping into it fully and saying, "This is who I am. And I choose this life." So here is the real question, do you dare to be free? Not everyone truly wants freedom. Because freedom comes with loneliness, discomfort, misunderstanding. But it's also the only place where you can truly breathe, live, and find yourself. If today you feel lost, if you feel like you're living a life that isn't really yours, stop and ask yourself, who am I trying to please? Do I have the courage to be disliked, in order to be real? Am I willing to pay the price of freedom? In the next part, we will dive into one of the most painful yet healing questions of all. How do I let go of my inferiority complex? How do I stop comparing and finally live with self-worth? Have you ever asked yourself, Why do I always feel not good enough? Why does everyone seem smarter, more beautiful, more successful than me? That lingering, quiet pain you carry inside, it's called an inferiority complex. And it seeps into every part of life. It makes you hesitate, doubt yourself, and slowly shrink away from the world. But perhaps the saddest part is this. Many people live their entire lives carrying a false belief about their own worth. Inferiority is not the truth, it's a story you've been telling yourself. According to Alfred Adler, no one is born feeling inferior. We don't feel small because we are, we feel small because we believe we are. And that belief, it doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Maybe it came from one harsh comment in childhood. One moment of failure that others laughed at. A painful comparison between you and a sibling. Or maybe it's just society constantly feeding you images of success. Over time, you began to tell yourself a quiet story. I'm not enough. I'm not as good as them. I'll never catch up. And eventually, you live like it's the truth. You stop trying. You stop dreaming. You stop hoping. Because deep inside, you've already decided you're a loser in a game you didn't ask to play. Comparison is the poison that kills self-worth. We live in a world where comparison is automatic. Every scroll on social media shows someone else's perfect life. The vacations, the bodies, the promotions, the love stories. And you begin to wonder. Why not me? What's wrong with me? But here's what you forget. You're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel. You're comparing your year 2 to their year 10. And most dangerously of all, you're forgetting this truth. Your worth has nothing to do with being better than someone else. True value comes from living your own task, not competing in someone else's. Adler introduces a concept called separation of tasks. It means you are responsible for your life. And other people's thoughts, judgments, or expectations, they are not your task. Once you accept this, a weight lifts off your shoulders. You no longer try to impress everyone. You stop measuring your success by how ahead or behind you are. You start focusing on what truly matters, your own growth, your own values, your own direction. The moment you step off the racetrack, you finally begin to reconnect with the person you were always meant to become. Self-acceptance isn't surrender, it's the beginning of freedom. Many people think accepting themselves means settling for less. But no. Self-acceptance is not giving up, it's waking up. When you accept yourself, flaws, wounds, and all, you open the door to healing. You no longer beg the world for permission to exist. You no longer need to be perfect to deserve love. You simply stand and say, I'm not perfect. But I'm worthy of living. Worthy of joy. Worthy of growing, one small step at a time. That's not weakness. That's courage. And now, the real question. Will you let go of inferiority to return to your true self? It won't be easy. You'll have to forgive your past. You'll have to stop blaming and start healing. You'll have to let go of jealousy, and start honoring your own story. But when you do, something beautiful happens. You stop needing to prove yourself. You start being yourself. And you realize, the only person you ever needed to be better than is the version of you who was too afraid to try. There's a question that sounds simple, but leaves many people feeling lost. What am I living for? Is it to earn a lot of money? To gain recognition? Or just to survive another day? If you've ever felt empty despite achieving things, or questioned your purpose, then congratulations. You're beginning to awaken at the deepest level. And according to Alfred Adler's philosophy, beautifully unpacked in the courage to be disliked. The answer to a meaningful life is not found in being better than others, but in something more profound. Contribution, serving something greater than yourself. From freedom to responsibility. When you've let go of inferiority and begun accepting yourself, you'll experience something strange and beautiful. Freedom. You're no longer controlled by the gaze of others. You don't have to perform perfection. You get to live as your truest self, with all your real thoughts, feelings, and dreams. But then you realize something. Freedom isn't meant to make you selfish or disconnected. True freedom comes with responsibility. Freedom means knowing you have the right to choose, and taking full responsibility for those choices. And the greatest human responsibility? To create value for others. We're all connected, no one truly lives alone. We often dream of a life that's just ours, untouched by the world. But the truth is, we always exist in relation to others. When you work, you contribute to a larger system. When you listen to a friend, you help ease their pain. When you share your knowledge, your story, your kindness, you inspire, you heal, you build. You don't need to be a hero. Just by living genuinely and usefully, you're already contributing. Meaning doesn't come from success, but from how you impact others. Success, if measured only in titles, money, or applause, will always feel empty. But if you live for something greater than yourself, you begin to feel you have a true reason to wake up every morning. A mother staying home to raise children is contributing. An ordinary employee who treats colleagues kindly is contributing. An artist who creates beauty, even if not famous, is contributing. You don't need to stand out to matter. You only need to live consciously, and not just for yourself. Shifting from me to we, the secret of lasting happiness. Here's the key. A life that revolves around the self will always feel anxious, empty, and alone. A life connected to others becomes deep, meaningful, and joyful. When you give, you don't lose, you gain. More connection. More purpose. More inner peace. When you offer real value, you help build a better world. And in doing so, you also nourish your soul. And now the question, is your life serving something bigger than you? Forget, for a moment, society's ideas of success. Forget the pressure to make it big. Start with something small. A kind act. A heartfelt conversation. A dream that includes the well-being of others. Because meaning isn't in the size of your actions, it's in the depth of your presence. Let's return to the first question. What am I living for? The answer is no longer to become great. It becomes, I live to love. I live to contribute. I live to be a useful part of this world. If there's one thing that keeps people from living authentically, it's this. The fear of being disliked. We fear not being accepted. We fear being misunderstood, judged, or criticized. So, we hide, smiling when we're exhausted, staying silent when we want to speak, nodding when we want to say no. We become the version of ourselves that's liked, but lose touch with our true self. Why are we so afraid of being disliked? Because we've been taught to believe being liked equals having worth. We think, if someone doesn't like me, there must be something wrong with me. If others disagree with me, I must be wrong. If I'm criticized, I should change to please them. But according to Adler, as explained with profound clarity in The Courage to be Disliked, this is the illusion that causes us the most suffering. A deeper truth: I do not live to please everyone. If someone dislikes you, it doesn't mean you're wrong. If someone disagrees, it doesn't mean you're unworthy. If someone walks away, it doesn't mean you are unlovable. You cannot control what others feel or think, but you can choose how you live. And when you dare to live honestly, you may lose a few people, but you will find yourself. The courage to be disliked is not rudeness, it's healthy boundaries. Don't get it wrong, being disliked doesn't mean being selfish or hurting others. It means you say no when necessary. You speak your truth with kindness. You stop betraying yourself to gain shallow approval. This is what mature freedom looks like, not easy, but deeply worth it. Everyone walks their own path, you don't need permission to be yourself. The truth is, you will never please everyone. No matter how kind or careful you are, some won't understand you. No matter how hard you try, some will still criticize. And that's okay. When you accept this, you'll feel something lift. You no longer need approval to feel enough. You do what's right, stay honest, and let the rest go. The courage to live your own life, the greatest gift you can give yourself. In the end, the courage to be disliked is not a goal, it is a kind of inner strength. The strength to follow your own path, even when others disapprove. Speak your truth, even if it's misunderstood. Be yourself, even if it means not being liked. And with that courage, you unlock a new kind of life. A life where you're not constantly looking over your shoulder. A life lived with authenticity, freedom, and truth, not for applause, but because you're finally living for you. Final message: do you have the courage to be disliked, to be truly you? The Courage to be Disliked isn't just a philosophy book. It's a mirror that reflects your inner world, revealing this truth. The greatest pain doesn't come from being disliked. It comes from not daring to live your truth. You can't control who loves or hates you, but you can control how you live. And when you live authentically, the people who truly matter will find you. Dear friend, the journey through the courage to be disliked is not an easy one. Because this isn't just a book to read. It's a conversation that dares you to wake up. Together, we've walked through the layers of old beliefs. That the past does not define your future. That happiness is not given, it's chosen. That your life belongs to you and no one else. And above all, that the courage to live authentically sometimes begins with the courage to be disliked. This book doesn't offer formulas, it offers reflection. There are no absolute truths. No perfect path that fits everyone. Through the dialogue between the young man and the philosopher, Adler simply invites you to ask, what are you really living for? Are you emotionally free? And are you willing to take full responsibility for your life? And if you're asking yourself those questions now, then perhaps you've already begun your own inner revolution. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. You didn't just listen to content. You walked alongside a story of transformation. I truly hope that even just one idea, one sentence, one quiet moment in this video might be enough to awaken in you the belief that you deserve a life of honesty, freedom, and meaning. Don't live to be liked. Live to be yourself. If you found this video meaningful, please consider subscribing and sharing it with someone you care about. Maybe they, too, are waiting for a message like this. I look forward to seeing you again on our next journey through books and ideas. Until then, may you always have the courage to live truthfully, to love deeply, and to never abandon yourself.